I would just like to say that your breakdown so far is superior to anyone else I've interviewed in regards to giving us the cheat codes on how to get business pushed through. I mean, because that's the most frustrating part for a new agent is they try and then they get stuck and they try and they get stuck and then they get unstuck 4 times and finally the fifth time they kind of figured it out. And you're like, hey, just avoid all these things. And out the gate, you should be one of one as a new agent or any. I mean, we've got a lot of top producing agents that don't sell with you yet that I think you're going to start just based on this simple training to be able to go, this actually seems pretty enjoyable. I mean, I didn't know I could pick face to face. I didn't know about the different things that, what not to do. Don't type anything in, right? These simple things, like that's the thing that gets agents hung up. All right, hello everybody. Grady Polson, your Family First Life America. Beyond excited to have Devon Martin joining us from NLG National Life Group, one of the leading IUL creators in the entire industry. And Devon is one of the best carrier reps that I believe is out there, as his always goes above and beyond. I've heard such good things from agents that have had the chance to work with him and get support from whether it's underwriting or contracting. But we're excited to, expand our partnership with NLG. Within our agency, we've done some volume, but I believe there's, 1, 2, 3, 4 times we can do here in the next 6, 12, 18 months. But the big part is awareness, right? With the depression of mortgage protection leads and with the rise of interest rates, which has lowered mortgages and HELOCs and refinances, it's sunk our mortgage protection leads nearly to the floor. But what happens here at our company is people saw opportunity and they go, well, let's go learn a higher quality product. Let's go learn that next tier of insurance sales. And that, I believe, is IULs. Myself and my family, I have 6. There's 6 of us. My wife is the best salesman, which is why we have 4 kids. But it's the reality, though, is it's a phenomenal product to create tax-free retirement for yourself, for your family. And I've heard nothing but great things from our agents that work with NLG, and we're just excited to continue to expand this education to put the ease of how easy it is to kind of get the ball rolling as a new agent, or how the things that agents are using from a very, very high level as some of our top producers. So excited to have you on, man. It's been some time coming, but looking forward to today and our future relationship.
Likewise, Grady. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, all of FFL. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are. Hands down, my favorite intro. Don't tell the other FFL teams, but I know this is being recorded, so the cat's out anyway. But thank you for the intro. Thank you for having me. I know that any carrier rep would kill to be in this spot that I'm in right now, and any other future invitations as well. So I don't take that for granted, and I genuinely appreciate it too as well. So thank you for that. I do live in Dallas, Texas, but my tan gives me away. I am from Northern Vermont. I've been at National Life Group for about 10 years now. Started out in the payment center, worked my way around the company, moved to Dallas about 5 years ago. So I've been around the company. I've been in a lot of different departments. A fun fact about my role, and I do like to talk about this, I'm actually 100% commission based, just like you guys as agents. I'm a W-2 employee of NLG, but I don't have a guaranteed salary. I don't have a company credit card. So I have to treat it like my business, just like you guys as well. But I say that to say I have skin in the game. So if you guys aren't getting paid and money isn't going into your bank account, I literally don't get paid either. So hopefully when you guys submit your business, you feel my support and punctuality with that. I am going to cover a lot of information today. So I always like these to be more of a conversation instead of a presentation, but given the structure and how many people there are, sometimes that can make it a little bit difficult. But with all that said, blow up the chat box, speak up, tell me what questions you guys might have. I also take compliments too, believe it or not. But I just want to get this show on the road, and we are going to cover IULs because National Life Group is the #1 selling IUL IUL company in the industry. It's public information. You can Google it. It depends on how you measure that, whether it's market share or sales, but we've had it the longest and we are #1. It's a whole value proposition. So just because we're #1 in the index universal life IUL market doesn't mean that we're the best at everything, but the full value proposition for what you get is the reason why we are the best selling. So I'm going to talk about why National Life Group. I'm going to talk about our living benefits, underwriting, and also how to get paid faster. So this isn't just going to be specifically about the IUL. It'll be about everything else as well, but it's going to help you guys in your business. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And honestly, guys, I genuinely appreciate you guys having me. So start share.
Perfect.
I'm going to talk about National Life Group. And by the way, whenever I do these things, I always think about what's in it for you guys. What's in it for the person behind the camera watching me right now? Everything I'm going to talk about and do is going to be intentional. And it's because I want you to have faith and trust when you submit business to National Life, because there's 550 plus other carriers. Why would you submit it with us? So here's some fun facts about National Life Group. And these are also going to be conversations you'd eventually have with your clients as well. National Life Group has been around since 1848. In a few weeks, we're celebrating our 175th anniversary. Disney celebrated 100 years this year. We are 75 years older than Disney. Also, we are a 100% mutual carrier. What does it mean to be a mutual carrier? That means that the policyholders are the owners of our company. Every quarter, every year, when our CEO and board of directors meet, they're not meeting to figure out how to pay our CEO more, how to make it beneficial for our company. Everything we do is geared towards our policyholders. We're not public. We're not a stock. We're not trying to pay our shareholders. We don't even have shareholders. Everything we do revolves around the products that we offer for our clients. And if you think about 1848 until now, that means we've been through all the world wars, the COVIDs, the stock market crashes, the Great Depression. When COVID happened, we didn't just survive, we thrived. I'll give you a very specific example. In the middle of the pandemic, when other carriers weren't offering certain policies after age 65, if you were rated, if they were still trying to feel this environment out of what we were in, we went from $2 million non-med to $3 million. In the middle of our pandemic, we increased our non-med guidelines from $2 to $3 million. That's just a very specific scenario. It shows that we know what we're doing. We've been around, we're very profitable, and everything we do goes towards helping you and the clients as well. A big thing in what we do, we always talk about our growth, and I just like to show numbers because, quite honestly, guys, I'm from Northern Vermont. Very small state. People know Ben and Jerry's and Bernie Sanders. That's about it. I never even heard about National Life Group until I started applying for jobs. We were America's best kept secret. I'd say about 12 plus years ago, we were about the 82nd insurance carrier in the industry. Now we're the 9th. So in a 10-year period, we went from the 82nd ranked insurance carrier, life insurance specifically, to number 9. We're now our top 10 life insurance company overall with life insurance. And just how we grow is really about our living benefits, our ease of business, and everything else in that matter as well. Just specific in living benefits, we paid out a bunch of money as well. So this is what we did in 2022, 465 million of life insurance, 190 million of annuity premium, and 1.1 billion in single premium. The year before that, we did 500 million in single premium annuity sales. Year to date, we're at 2.4 billion in single premium annuity sales. So it just shows the growth. And at the end of the day, the numbers really can't lie. In 2013, we did 150 million of life insurance. Fast forward, and I'll say it again, it's so nice, I have to say it twice. We finished at 465 million. A lot of that growth is because of FFL. And I want you guys to really look at this slide for a second. This is the growth with FFL. I started supporting you guys when you got contracted in 2019. We went from 100,000 to 1 million to 5 million to 12 million to 20 million. And now that Grady's working so close with me and that he's such a good leader, my goal is $1 billion in 2025 for you guys with us. All jokes aside, you are hands down the fastest growing insurance agency with NLG we have ever had, both from a recruiting standpoint as well as production. We haven't seen this yet before in the history of our company in 175 years. So thanks to you guys, and I'm big with my memes too, and this basically summarizes the growth, both with FFL and NLG. So I'm going to kind of transition a bit. Feel free to type in the chat box and anything that you guys might have. I am going to kind of go a little bit fast just because I am from the Northeast, but I also want to cover a bunch of information. However, I'm not going anywhere. I'm happy to do Zooms for you guys later. I'm happy to come back on here. I can spend hours just on illustrations and certain IUL things alone. I just want to make sure we collectively cover everything just so it's as beneficial for everybody on this call who joined. Financial strength, we're not going anywhere. Like I said, very strong, A+ rated, great Comdex score, great risk-based capital. And I don't want to get too cheesy, but I want to talk about hamburgers for a second, cheeseburgers specifically. So I think we can all answer this question in our head immediately after I ask. What's the number one company when it comes to hamburgers? It's McDonald's. McDonald's is the number one selling company and the number one company for hamburgers. However, if you're going to go out on a date night with your wife or your husband or your hinge date or treating yourself, whatever you want to do, you're probably not going to go get a good quality gourmet burger from McDonald's. You want that crisp bacon, the garlic aioli, whatever the case may be. You want that good quality burger. People think because you're the number one company, that means that you're the best, when oftentimes it couldn't be further from the truth. Now, I don't want you guys to misunderstand. National Life Group is the number one selling IUL carrier. However, when it comes to those larger companies, you got to make sure you have that good quality gourmet burger, and that's exactly what we offer. This right here is exactly how I would train an agent, or if I was an agent, what I would want to know. I don't care if you just learned how to spell the words life insurance and IUL, or you've been $1 million roundtable producer. This right here is the perfect icebreaker and the perfect selling point. Keep in mind, everything I give you, feel free to take it and run with it. Personalize it, do what you'd like. But this is what I've found that agents have had the most success with. So looking at this puzzle piece, and let's say that you're chatting with your clients and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, can you agree that these three puzzle pieces are the top three financial consumer concerns? And then I would pick it apart. Die too soon. Would it be a problem for you and your family if you were to die too soon? Of course, that's the first thing people think of with life insurance. I want to be able to send my kids to college. I want my spouse to keep my house, so on and so forth. What about becoming ill? My favorite phrase is that the only thing more expensive than actually dying is surviving an illness. So your cancers, your heart attack, your strokes, all those things that happen to everyday people, when you're in the hospital laying up in bed rest, the bills don't stop. So you can actually get your benefit while you're still alive. It's life insurance, not death insurance. Live too long, number one fear for people at retirement, outliving their money. Medicine, technology, all this stuff is helping us live longer, but I've yet to have someone say, I have too much money saved for retirement. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if I could show you a way to solve all three of these problems, would that be something that you're interested in? And then, boom, it's the conversation starter for the IUL. Who is an IUL good for? Basically, anybody with a heartbeat, and that's insurable, honestly. So you want to make sure that you structure it the right way and make sure it makes sense for that specific person. But you can be as young as 2 weeks old and out of the hospital, or as old as age 85. I get a little bit hesitant when I get into their older ages because it could really, really depend on the scenario. But generally speaking, as long as you're relatively well in health and you're funding it well, the IUL is perfect. Sticking with the living benefits, question up here, 77 million. Does anyone want to take a guess at what this number represents? I know it's going to be the monthly premium amount you guys will be doing with us moving forward, but I'm looking for the other guesses. Any guesses in the chat box on what this number could represent?
7 million.
All right. So whenever you present, the average time from when you ask a question to get an answer is about 7 seconds. So I promise never longer than 7-second awkward silence. I'm just going to answer the question for you guys, though. It's the amount that NLG paid out just in living benefits. So we're not talking death benefits or claims or any death claims or anything like that. Thank you, the real Sean Simpson. That's right, you're the real one. This is just living benefits alone. So people that had cancer, had heart attack, had a stroke, this is money we paid out tax-free. Keep in mind, the living benefits are just additional riders on the policy. We have them in all 50 states, in all of our products, even our term. So the living benefits are huge because you don't have to put the money towards medical expenses. You don't have to be confined in a nursing home. This isn't legally a replacement for long-term care or disability insurance. However, these are great riders that literally save people's lives. I'm going to cover these at a very high level. This is a huge selling point for you guys as agents. I'll just go through each one rather quickly, and then I'll open it up for quick questions before we transition. So terminal illness is if I have 2 years or less to live. So if a U.S. doctor diagnoses me with 24 months or less to live, I get my terminal illness payout. Chronic illness, it's very similar to long-term care, even though it's not legally the same. It's if I can't do 2 of my 6 activities of daily living. So if I can't dress myself, bathe myself, control my bowel movements, X, Y, and Z, that's chronic illness. Critical illness and injury have a lot of triggers. That's why I have their own slide right here. I'm going to pause because sometimes I know these sessions are like drinking water out of a fire hose, but I want you guys to have a big takeaway that these living benefits are as good as it gets. I have a slide that will compare us to the industry, and keep in mind, you'll never hear me speak ill or talk bad about another carrier. I absolutely won't. Everyone has their specific benefits, their specific things they're great at, but when it comes to the living benefits and the IUL, National Life Group can't be beat. And I will throw all the cards on the table shortly and show you guys that. But if I were you, I would be processing this and just thinking prospects. So we have a retired firefighter in Houston, Texas that kills it with National Life Group, does amazing sales. He goes back and sells the critical injury all day because his firefighters have that peace of mind for severe burns. And National Life is as liberal as it gets with underwriting. We have no exclusions for military, police officers, firefighters. You don't even need a social security number to get a policy with us. You can have a tax identification number. I'll dig into underwriting in a moment, and you guys can ask me any questions that you have. I just want to get the gears turning on what we can do for you. How are the living benefits calculated? Hands down, the most popular question that I get. I feel like I've said hands down like 8 times, but you guys can feel free to raise your hands. But the living benefits, don't try to calculate it. I'm a big fan of telling somebody what time it is instead of how the watch works. I also compare a lot of this stuff to hot dogs. I love a good hot dog, but don't tell me how it's made. Just give me the hot dog. The living benefits are a discounted death benefit. The only way you get the full death benefit is to die. Sometimes it can still be very close to your death benefit, the amount that we would pay you, but the more the severe, the higher the payout. Run the illustration. National Life Group has had these the longest. We know what we're doing. We know how to calculate it. Run the illustration to show the living benefit projections. That's how I would calculate them. And this just shows us versus the rest of the industry. So when it comes to living benefits, if another carrier tells you that they have them, look under the hood of the car because this shows us and how powerful we are. This also leads me to say chargebacks aren't exactly ideal. When it comes to selling products, as long as you sell the best product, usually it can't be replaced. So that's going to avoid you guys getting chargebacks as well. I was working with a group of agents in Massachusetts at Family First Life. They were selling a lot of term policies with another carrier, and there was an agent in their area that was National Life Group contracted with us, and that agent would just replace those term policies all day. So those people finally got on board, started selling us, and they found that their persistency was a lot higher. So there's a place for everything else in this industry. Legally, it wouldn't get through the compliances and the laws of everything else if it was a bad solution. But when it comes to IULs and these products, you'll find that the persistency is very favorable. So I'm going to transition into underwriting next. But are there any questions on the living benefits before I move on? Anything at all?
Just for clarity, it's critical, chronic, and terminal, and it's percentage of the face amount or up to the full face amount. What I mean, so say it's $1 million IUL, $1 million term. Is it now? Are we talking specifically about your IUL product right now, or does it, or the kind of cross lines with the term too?
Across the line. So there's no set percentage, but the more the severe, the higher the payout.
Okay.
Terminal illness is usually about 85 to 91% of the death benefit.
Okay.
Yep. But there's different categories, right? Which makes sense. I can have a heart attack and be up and walking in a week, or I could have a heart attack and need triple bypass surgery. So there's different ends, but that's why the illustration tool is so powerful because it will show you. But unfortunately, there is no exact calculation.
Okay. I think you got a couple.
Living benefits are absolutely available in California. They're in all 50 states, even New York. Chronic works a very, very, very specific way in New York. New York's just a different animal. We do have the Alzheimer's rider. That's very new, Jess. We do have a new Alzheimer's rider. So if you take the full amount out of a living benefit that we provide to you, the policy terminates. So if I have $1 million policy and I have a $900,000 payout, the policy terminates. I don't get that $100,000. So if you took a portion, then if you have a term policy, you're probably going to have to pay some premiums. If you have a max funded IUL for 20, 25 years, your cash value can pay for your premium. So I know that's a very political way to answer that question, but there's just no blanket statement to provide, unfortunately. So you can access your living benefits as much as you want, but going back to my original answer, if you take the full amount, it terminates. But I'll unpack that for a second. If I have $1 million policy and NLG is going to give me 900,000 of living benefits, I can take half the 900,000. So I'm going to get $450,000, but my existing benefit, since I took 50% of my living benefit, will then decrease to 500,000. So it's not all or nothing. You can take a portion. We actually had somebody who had 4 months or less to live, and I think they had like a $200,000 policy. We were going to give them like 150,000. They had to ask the family, do you want me to die in 4 months and get the full 200,000, or do you want me to take this $150,000 out right now so we can do some bucket list items? I just use that example because you can file for a claim, and if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. You can also take a portion as well. So just something to keep in mind. Lou, I hope that helps answer your question, but okay, sweet. And we have guides that go through all this. And honestly, no one's ever listened themselves out of a sale, but they've definitely talked themselves out of a sale. Don't get into the weeds with all this stuff. Just have them have that peace of mind that they're protected and that these are in all 50 states on all of our products. You're welcome, iPhone. Thank you. Okay, so dentist time. Who here likes going to the dentist? I don't know anybody. I moved to Dallas, Texas. My dentist is super sweet. She's smart. She's funny. She's pretty. She's amazing, has good energy. I still can't stand going to see her. I still go every 6 months because I should. We all should. But you used to have to do something like the dentist to get life insurance. You needed to do blood, urine. It was really uncomfortable process. It was invasive. You don't have to do that anymore with National Life Group specifically. These are our non-med guidelines. If there's one takeaway that I would want you guys to have from today, it would be this right here. And I'm going to unpack this for a second. National Life Group goes up to $3 million non-med on our IUL. We do need an APS for 2 million and one and above. So let me just talk about 2 million and below for right now. 2 million and below to age 50, 1 million and below to age 60, 250,000 to age 65. We have a non-med program. Keep in mind, this is not a simplified issue. This is still fully underwritten, but that actually works in your guys' favor, and here's why. We ask you all the questions. Is your mom and dad alive? Have you been to the hospital? What's your height and weight? What's your favorite sports team? Just kidding, not what's your favorite sports team. We ask all these things to the client, and at the end of the app, 42% of the time, you're going to see, congratulations, your client's approved. This is a fully underwritten program, and there's 2 parts to our e-app. And the reason why is because once you sign off on the first part, we're actually starting the underwriting process as you're filling it out. And hopefully you guys will see instant approvals. That happens about 42% of the time. Even if your client wanted to do blood and urine and they're okay with it, we actually don't allow you to, because this is still fully underwritten. If you apply a standard, you could get preferred or preferred plus because it's a fully underwritten program. But you don't necessarily need to hang these numbers on the front of your fridge, but I would definitely suggest that you have these memorized. I get questions all the time. Devon, I have a 53-year-old. They want $500,000 in coverage. What's the underwriting requirements? It's still non-med. We'll take face amounts higher than this, but this is what's eligible for our no fluid program. So please make sure that you have this section right here on the right memorized, because it's everything with us. So I'm going to talk about underwriting in our processing for a second. So I'm not naive. I actually like when people call me when they're pissed off or upset, because it gives me a chance to earn and keep the business. And here's why. Whenever there's headaches or frustration when you're selling a new carrier, I think that's inevitable. Whenever you're selling a new carrier, I use the analogy that you're playing the same sport. It's just for a different team. You don't know that team's plays. You don't know that team's playbooks. We operate a very specific way. We don't take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to issue policies. We just don't. If you know what I'm about to talk to you for the next 10 to 20 minutes, you guys will get paid faster than ever before. And you guys will have a really ease when it comes to submitting business. It's going to be very easy. But we don't know what we don't know. And I wouldn't expect you guys to know that anyways. However, I will talk about underwriting, and I'm going to talk about how to get instant approvals and then how to communicate with our company. Don't worry, I'm going to touch on the IUL and cover everything, but this is also very important at the same time. So when it comes to our business, I undersold it 44%. 44 out of 100 applications never physically touch an underwriter. They approve and go to your case manager to issue. The next section will be about why cases don't instantly approve when they could. But just because it doesn't instantly approve doesn't mean that we need blood or urine or anything like that. The underwriter could just tell you, hey, we see insurance activity with another carrier. Can you please tell us about that? Or, hey, we found this med they didn't disclose. Please tell us about that. I will tell you this. Buyers are liars. I get it. Clients can say no and everything. Take your time. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you rush through these applications, if you submit 10 applications and 10 clients said no to medical questions, as much as I love America and this country, the average 10 Americans have something going on. It's kind of a concern if you're not on a high blood pressure medicine at a certain medication at a certain level. Take your time on these apps. If you guys do non-disclosures, and I know that you guys wouldn't do that intentionally. I see the training. I see the numbers that you guys do. I just seeing Grady for a few seconds, I can tell his leadership is second to none. You guys have great training and you move 100 miles an hour. Please take your time on these apps. There's nothing more that an underwriter hates than a surprise or getting the impression that someone's trying to sneak things through. So take your time on the apps. If they've said no to every single question on the app and in the medical section, I would basically say, are you sure? Even though clients can be preferred or preferred plus, they could still have something going on. So just make sure that you take your time. I really, really, really would encourage that. I'm going to qualify for death benefit. So, I mean, when it comes to death benefits, clients are approved as soon as you submit an app and fill out the payment section, generally speaking. And then once you're approved, you're covered. So coverage is immediate, but keep in mind there is a 2-year contestability period. That's not a National Life Group thing. That's an industry thing. Anytime death happens in the first 2 years of the policy, carriers reserve the rights to pay out to investigate the claim. That doesn't mean the claims don't get paid out. We just reserve the right to investigate it. After 2 years, carriers have to legally pay it out. Even if it's suicide or something else, we legally have to pay it out after 2 years. So
just real quick, great
Grady, please.
underwriting questions. I mean, just as you said, clients are liars, buyers, they're smarter than they let on to be, especially if they're looking for bigger policies. Oh, I tried with someone else. It didn't work out. Oh, I'm going to try it. I mean, I think is the word fiduciary. It's our responsibility to dig into these things because we are essentially, a liaison for the insurance carrier and we're a liaison for the client. And so it's our job to push, right? It's no fun selling a $2,000 a month policy and it getting declined because this is their 5th time they've applied. Like, find that out. But a great lines for everyone out there that's new is, hey, Betty, what are you taking? What have you taken? And what else have you been prescribed but chosen not to take? Right. So it's so anything in there, any of these medications, right? It's our job to read the different medications on the financial inventory and then to push them about, so what doctors have you seen? Any new doctors you've seen? What doctors are you scheduled to go see? Right. Like, that's where they get all this information from. It's they can see it, but we need them to be honest too, because the insurance carrier is taking a risk. It's all gambling or professional gambling with actuarial scientists. But if we ask these questions, then and we put it doesn't mean because they have something going on, they're not going to get approved. It just might have to pay a rate at which they could get approved. And I don't like that rate. Well, you should have got insurance before you got old and fat, right? So it's said with love, right? But it's not your job to tell them what they can't get. It's just your job to apply as appropriately as you possibly can.
Dude, if your mic wasn't sitting down, I'd tell you to drop it. That was perfect. And you're exactly correct. You buy life insurance with your health. You don't buy it with your money. And people that want it can't even get it. So disclose stuff. Exactly, Grady. Thank you. I'm just going to echo what you've been saying. It's very important, guys. Underwriting will flat out deny apps if you guys do a lot of no's when the questions could be yes. So your clients aren't going to get declined just because something wasn't disclosed. However, if there's severe things happening, underwriters will flat out decline them now because we're trying to get those non-disclosures up. And also, I totally understand. I'm going to be very transparent with you guys. I don't know the final expense market like you guys do. I just don't. I do know that it's a different animal. You can't compare this to final expense. It's just a different sale. It's a different solution. I know how quick you guys can get paid with that stuff. I know how quickly it can issue and approve. This is just different. However, when it comes to IULs, these issue and approve quicker than anybody else in the industry. Keep in mind, we're growing, so we do go through certain time periods where turnaround times can be different, but we're more caught up than ever when it comes to NLG. I'm going to pause. Any underwriting questions? I got a guy. How do you guys handle marijuana? Anything like that? And I'll just give you guys some examples again to get the gears turning. As long as you don't smoke or use edibles more than 3 to 5 times a month, we can approve you as a non-smoker rating. Obviously, assuming everything else checks out. I always get underwriting questions. I got a guy who's this height and weight. Is he insurable? Yeah, sounds good to me. And then they submit it, but they forget to say to me that they had diabetes and they also smoke. So it's always a case-by-case scenario. One thing is usually okay, depending on what it is, but a mixture of things is a different story. So just keep that in mind. But we also issue policies for people who are diabetic after age 20. A lot of carriers are age 30 or 40. I'm just saying that because we are very liberal and flexible when it comes to the underwriting process, but disclosing things is everything. So if you use a tobacco product, you're a smoker. If I chew, if I smoke cigarettes, whatever the case may be, I will also say underwriting is on a need to know basis. So you obviously want to be honest. You obviously want to disclose things. But if I have a job, I'm working, my height and weight is good, I work out all the time, but I went to Denver, Colorado, and I wanted to have one heck of a time on a hike, so I got an edible. That's much different than me living in my mom's basement and smoking every day through something that's going to be in my lungs for a long period of time. So use your judgment on the applications. Underwriting underwrites by what you put on the application. I'm going to say that again. Technically, underwriting underwrites by what you put on the application. So use your judgment call when it comes to that stuff. So not many underwriting questions. Definitely look at our underwriting guide, 57 pages of information, but you guys work weekends, you guys work evenings. Sometimes your uplines can be busy. The more tools that people have, it can make a dependent person independent. And it also helps you in your business as well to have things like that. The underwriting guide has so much information. It can honestly answer north of 80% of underwriting questions also. When it comes to meds, just disclose it. But I've seen somebody with depression on one med and they were declined because if they were off that med, they'd be a danger to society. I've seen someone on 4 depression meds and get preferred. So again, always case by case scenario when it comes to those underwriting places. So I'm going to talk about the EAP. And again, I apologize because I know that this was really geared towards IULs, and I am going to get into that, but it's really important to understand how a company operates because it would do me a disservice to you guys if I just talked about how great IULs were. You start to submit our policies, and then it's just a headache from there. So I'm happy to talk about IULs at the end because I will. I have some good sales tactics that I think you guys will like. I'll explain it, but I did want to cover our company overall. This is probably the second takeaway I want you guys to have. Marketing got with underwriting because when we rolled out with our non-med engine, agents were giving us horrible feedback. It's not working. I'm not seeing instant approvals. So underwriting got with marketing, and they created this presentation on why policies don't instantly approve when they should. I'm just going to get right into it. But before I do that, I want to talk about the signature methods in our EAPs. There's 2 parts. The first part, I sign off on my HIPAA and give my social security number and give NLG authorizations to start underwriting me. You'll notice that there's no banking information or medical sections in the beginning of the first part. You have to sign off and start the second part. You guys can always click face-to-face, even if the client isn't physically in front of you. I'm going to say that again. Even though the client isn't physically in front of you, you can click face-to-face. If you chose email, what happens is the application locks and you can't do anything until the client signs off in their email. Might not sound like a big deal, but that email can go to the client's junk. Stuff can get hung up. It can take a few minutes. The client can say, let's do this at another time. A lot of things can happen. Just make sure that if not physically with you, you choose the option that I was not in person and a video call was done. I have this in writing from compliance. You guys can always click face-to-face. So please always click face-to-face. And the other thing, always do LSW products. Never, never, never do NL. There's 2 different lineups because we operate business in New York. NL is for New York. I don't blame you guys because NL, National Life, but always do LSW unless you're inside of New York. Because if you did, you have to redo the whole app and the commission is half. So make sure you do LSW. But back to what I was saying, this is why policies don't instantly approve when they could. Two big reasons. If you type in the agent's notes in the very first part of the application, even if you said, please send me a physical policy and thank you, if your client's the healthiest person in the world, it will automatically come out of that jet approval and have to touch an underwriter. The other thing is attachments. If you include an attachment, it will not instantly approve, regardless of how you're filling out the app or what the client's health is. Those two things are big ones. Don't type and don't include attachments. Even if it asks you for an attachment, I would just push it through anyway, because the chances are it could instantly approve, and you can just work with the case manager after that anyways. I'm going to open it up for some questions in a second, but I want to cover these. Here's the big things. And by the way, everything I'm telling you right now is the difference maker of you getting paid within 1 week or you getting paid in 2, 3, 4+ weeks, because it has to touch an underwriter. That's why I'm stressing this so much. I know that you guys always do what's best for people, but you also don't work for free and you're not philanthropists. And the more money that you guys get, the more leads you can buy, the more families that you can protect. That's why I'm doing this. And you guys get paid faster. I say that last because, I mean, you should always do what's best for people. Nonetheless, medication and medical conditions. Do not free-form type. If your clients have depression and they take Advil, I'm using Advil just because it's known. Don't type depression and Advil and move on. Start the type, and then you'll see the drop-down filter and physically click that drop-down. If you're filling out medication and you don't click the drop-down, the system thinks that you're sneaking it through and it won't catch it. So make sure that you guys use those drop-downs. The other thing is doctors. I don't care if you don't have a primary care doctor. And here's a secret. Underwriting doesn't either. As long as you're younger than 60 and don't have any health issues, we don't care if you're seeing a doctor. However, you should be putting it in there 100% of the time. If you have a 26-year-old client and they don't even have a doctor or know a doctor, just put the urgent care down the road or something. Just put something inside of the application. I have this from underwriting. This is their request. The other thing is juveniles. I get it all the time. Devon, this client's 4 or 6 years old. What's taking so long? Don't eyeball height and weight. If the parent says, oh, they're about 40 inches and 30 pounds, be accurate to the inch and to the pound, because just a couple of pounds or inches could be the difference maker for a lot of ages. So if you guys do those things, you'll see that instant approval process go from 44% to higher. But again, just because things don't instantly approve doesn't mean blood and urine. It just means that we need some clarifying questions or there's something else going on. And I'm going to have another transparent conversation with you guys, even though I'm basically talking to myself. We don't take months to issue policies. Guys, we just don't. I've never seen a policy take longer than 2 or 3 months. I shouldn't say never. Most of the time, almost all the time, I've never seen a policy take longer than 2 or 3 months unless there's an APS. I call that the A word. The APS is something that we need from a doctor, a statement on them, or medical records. If your clients have cancer, after 5 years or longer since your last treatment, we can consider you, but we might need the medical records. And keep in mind, we don't have AI for stuff like that. We had an underwriter with a 50-page APS. Page 47 that they had to manually read each word had one sentence that made that client uninsurable. So when it comes to that stuff, that's why it takes time. But National Life Group does not take months to issue policies. I'm sorry, we just don't. And the last thing before I open it up is the payment section. We don't pay commission until a payment is drawn. So approved doesn't necessarily mean issued. If you guys choose the first, today's the second. If you choose the first, no policy is going to issue until December 1st. It advanced dates, meaning you're not going to get paid until after 12/1. You should always choose draft next available if you can, or choose the option that says draft on agent instructions, and then we'll draft whenever you guys tell us to. But be very careful when you're choosing draft dates, otherwise it can advance date. So I'm going to pause because I want to sip of my water and to see if you guys have any questions, but please open it up. Face-to-face part preferred. Okay, face-to-face. There's 2 ways to sign. You can choose email or you can choose face-to-face. Just choose face-to-face. Even if they're not physically in front of you, choose face-to-face. It might not mean a lot if you haven't written yet, keyword yet, but face-to-face is the way to go. It just makes it so there's less headaches when you're submitting those applications. The worst thing that you guys have in your business, other than prospecting, the biggest challenge as an agent, if you will, is once you submit the policy and it's hurry up and waiting. You're waiting for that insurance carrier to issue the policy because a lot of clients can change their mind. So always click face-to-face. It makes it easier. Download the app, please. Download the National Life Group smartphone application, the one that says agents. We are not a call company. If you call our company and say, hey, what's this status? That's the worst way to check the status of a policy. We now have this engine that we literally spent $100 million on, and I'm not exaggerating. We spent $100 million because years ago, there was about 80 systems that case managers and underwriters used and had to communicate with each other. Now we have one. We don't even use email at the company for new business. It's all in the smartphone application or in the portal of your website. So please make sure that you guys are using that. Honestly, I had to change my American Airlines flight the other day. The last thing I wanted to do was call. The first thing I did was go into the website and change my flight that way. Don't call. We have the technology at your fingertips. At the same time, I'm the escalation person for you guys. I do a lot of trainings, a lot of traveling. But when you guys are just completely lost and stumped and have headaches, that's also what I'm here for. So please use the smartphone application. Don't call our company. If you were just having a horrible experience, please let me know and get a hold of me. But we are trending back to normal turnaround times because we've hired a lot of people. How do we find your underwriting guide? I will post the underwriting guide in the chat box. Christian, thanks for the compliment. I'll Venmo you your $20. The link app name. So just go to the Play Store or the Google Store, whatever it's called, and then just type in National Life Group. You'll see two, one for agents and one for clients. The client one is great because it prevents them from having to call you all the time, and they can make a lot of changes in themselves as well. So I'm going to post the underwriting guide in the chat box, and then now we're going to talk about the IULs. Any questions before we move on to the IUL section at all? I'm going to assume no. Okay, so I'm not even going to have a visual right now for the IUL. I'm just going to talk about it with you guys. Let me answer your point. I'll come back for any more. So just because a client's insurable doesn't mean they automatically get the living benefits. Just because a policy is rated doesn't mean you don't get the living benefits. I see policies that are rated that get them. I've seen people that are preferred that don't get the living benefits. If you have a history of cancer, you're probably not going to get that critical illness living benefit. So there's not a one size fits all answer for that, but it's always a case by case scenario. But I kind of position the living benefits as a privilege. You can get a life insurance policy, but if you have a history of certain bad health, you're not going to get those living benefits. I've never seen terminal taken off of policy. We don't go down to table Z, but if we went to table Z, then you'd probably still have terminal illness. I've never seen terminal illness taken off. Anything for me or anything you want to say?
I would just like to say that your breakdown so far is superior to anyone else I've interviewed in regards to giving us the cheat codes on how to get business pushed through. I mean, because that's the most frustrating part for a new agent is they try and then they get stuck and they try and they get stuck and then they get unstuck 4 times. And finally the 5th time they kind of figured it out. And you're like, hey, just avoid all these things. And out the gate, you should be one of one as a new agent or I mean, we've got a lot of top producing agents that don't sell with you yet that I think are going to start just based on this simple training to be able to go, this actually seems pretty enjoyable. I mean, I didn't know I could pick face-to-face. I didn't know about the different things that, what not to do. Don't type anything in, right? These simple things, like that's the thing that it's agents hung up is you get, because it's not just us getting paid. Like us getting paid is fantastic. It's a great byproduct, but it also allows time delay for the client to get cold feet, time delay for the client to go ask their unemployed brother-in-law, what do you think about these index universal life policies? Time for them to go Google more and they'll end up on someone else's website that maybe has higher projected return rates because they're quoting, an 11% return on your money when we're supposed to be, projecting between 5 and 7%, but that company hasn't been slapped by, the governing bodies that make companies not give unfair projections because it's all based on the S&P 500. So it's kind of all going to be the same, but just what are the other benefits? So in all those things said, like, I love how detailed you've been with this because this is the stuff that our agents get hung up on that then get this chance of the policy never even getting issued. So That's what the goal is here, guys. Don't take this knowledge and just let it sit on the bookshelf. Take it and start applying with it. Open it up, review your notes. We'll get this training out for you. Dig into NLG's products. Devon, fantastic, man. Fire and fury, and appreciate everything you shared today.
Thank you, man. You're right. Results come from actions, not discussions. So take this and run with it. Genuinely appreciate your guys' time and letting me be on here. Happy to come back, but thank you. Thank you. Sorry to the questions I didn't answer, but I can definitely come back. So thank you a million times. I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. All right, everyone, have a great day. See you next week. Bye for
Bye,
now.
guys.